Hey guys, today we're going to continue our work with the Pythagorean theorem. So just as a quick review, the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Oh, sorry about that. And the purpose of the Pythagorean theorem is to find the missing side length of a right triangle. And remember, we have the two legs that make up the right triangle, and across from the right angle, and across from the right angle is your C or your hypotenuse, which is the longest side. So let's continue our notes today with number 6. I want to go back and briefly review some of the work or some of the types of problems we did the other day. So first, let's draw our right triangle. Okay. And I'm going to say this side is 25 and this side is 38. So if you'll recall, it doesn't matter. Well, the first thing we do is ask ourselves, do I need C or do I have C? And in this case, I need C. So that means I have my A and my B. I have my two legs. Doesn't matter which one's A and which one's B. So I write my Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I plug in my numbers, 25 squared plus 38 squared equals c squared. Now, if you guys have figured out how to just type it straight in the calculator, please by all means do that, okay? But I am showing the different steps for people who need it. So 25 times 25 is 625. 38 times 38 is 1444. Equals c squared. In this case, we do add those numbers. So 2069 equals c squared, and our last step is always to take the square root. So the square root of 2069 is about 45.5. So my missing side is about 0.5 units long. Let's try one more where we have to find the c. We're going to label this one number 7. So let's draw this like this, because remember, they could give you any direction. They could draw your triangle any direction. So let's say this is 100 and this is 70. Let's flip it for visual people. Let's say this is 70 and this is 100. So the first question I ask myself is, do I have C or do I need C? And the way you do that is you find your L and draw your arrow across. I don't have C, so that's what I leave in my equation. And either of these can be A or B. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I said A was 70 squared plus B was 100 squared equals C squared. So 70 times 70 is 4,900. I'm using my calculator for this, guys. I don't have it on my screen, but it's off to the side. And then 100 times 100 is 10,000 equals C squared. Well, these are together, so I'm going to add those. 14,900 equals C squared, and remember, our last step is always to find that square root. So our C, or our hypotenuse, is about 122.1 units long. 122.1, and that makes sense because I have a 70, a 100, and my longest side is 122. It's kind of close to it, but clearly bigger. Now let's look at some other examples of when we have C, when they give us C. So let's draw a right triangle. And we're going to label this side 0.5, and I want to label this side 0.8. So the first thing I ask is, do I have C or do I need to find C? So draw your L, draw your arrow. If you have that where the arrow's pointing, then you have C. You have to mark that as C. If you don't, it's going to throw your work off. The other one can be A or B. I always choose A. So now I'll write my Pythagorean theorem. A, we said, is 0.5 squared plus b squared equals c, which was 0.8 squared. So in your calculator, 0.5 times 0.5 gives you 0.25, plus b squared, that's what I want is b, my missing leg side, or leg length, and 0.8 times 0.8, do that on the calculator, is 0.64. Here's where it's different. If they give you c, you subtract. If you want c, you add before you take the square root. So since they gave me c, I'm going to subtract 0.25 from both sides. So I end up with b squared equals, and again I'm typing it in my calculator off to the side here, 0.39. That doesn't make sense because look, I've got 0.5 and 0.8, so that reminds me to take my square root, and I get about 0.6. So b is about 0.6. Let's do another one where we are given the c. So let's draw this the same way. Draw our right triangle. And I'm going to say this side is 15 and this side is 25. So first I ask myself, did they give me c or do I need to find c? Draw your L, draw your arrow across, and it looks like they gave us the hypotenuse, or c. So this one can be a. So let's plug in a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We said a was 15 squared plus b squared equals, we said c was 25. So remember, the difference here is we're going to subtract here in just a minute. So 15 times 15, I think is 225, but I'm going to double check. 15 times 15, yep. Plus b squared equals 25 times 25 is 625. This is the subtraction part. Now I'm going to subtract 225 from both sides. See, because I'm solving for b. That's why I do that. I'm doing the opposite. So b squared equals 400, because 625 minus 225 is 400. And my last step on the calculator is to take the square root of 400, and you get 20. So my missing side, which is b, equals 20. And let's do one final example. You know I like to draw a crazy one. So let's draw our right triangle. Okay. And let's say that this side is 30 and this side is 25. So first I find my legs, or my L. Do I have C or do I need to find C? Remember, if you have a cross from the right angle, you've got C. And the other one you can make A. I always make it A, honestly, just to keep it consistent. So now to find that missing side length, I do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I said A was 25 squared plus B squared equals, we said C was 30 squared. So 25 times 25 is 625 plus B squared equals 30 times 30 is 900. Now since I want to get the B by itself, I'm going to subtract 625 from both sides. So I get B squared equals 900 minus 625 is 275. And my last step is to take the square root. So you get about 16.6. So our missing side is about 16.6 units long.